date of 18th October 1964 is a landmark in the history of Christianity in Uganda. That was the day 22 young Ugandans who were killed for their faith by the then King or Kabaka of Buganda, Daniel Mwanga II, were canonized and made saints during a historic ceremony at St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican, Rome, by Pope Paul VI. The canonization came shortly after Vatican Council II, the meeting of the top global Catholic hierarchy, which allowed the faithful worldwide to worship in their local languages instead of Latin, which was the case before. Therefore, in Uganda, the choir could take part in the liturgy and animate using local songs and instruments. A renowned church composer, Joseph Kyagambiddwa, was chosen to form a choir to animate the Uganda Martyrs Canonization Mass in Rome. He composed 22 songs which formed an oratorio to tell the story of the martyrs. Because it was expensive to fly choir members from Uganda, Kyagambiddwa was asked to train Ugandan students in the diaspora, including Germany, Switzerland and Italy. At that time, Justin Maria Nachiganda Kasuli was a student in Germany. She recalls how Kyagambiddwa mobilized the students to form a choir.
And the decision was made by the then Bishop Chuanuka, the late Bishop Chuanuka, that Kyagambiddwa, the late Kyagambiddwa, who was our choir master, to come to Germany and recruit members of his choir.
And another group was in Freiburg, in Switzerland. And another group was in Cologne for the
Kyagambiddwa had little time, but he accomplished the task. However, the choir co-opted other members from Nigeria and a few other African countries. Therefore, 18th October 1964 was the first time an African choir sang in Vatican in local languages using local instruments. Women also sang in the choir for the first time. Memories of that day remain alive in the minds of many of the participants.
When our way to jump to St. Peter, we met many Europeans, many white people. But everything, were asking us, are you coming from Uganda? They were making clothes of coming, so we are amused, so we are very happy.
After this, Kyagambiddwa composed many more songs, such as Abera Womuchala, Where Does the Lady Stay, Wajendi Sange Yantonda, Where Will I Find My Creator, Asula wa Yezu, Where Does Jesus Stay, and many more. Unfortunately, Kyagambiddwa didn't live long. He died in October 1978 at the age of 56. Sylvester Kakoza, a resident of Lunguja and former student of Kyagambiddwa, lived with him in his last year on earth.
He got paralyzed. And because he had no personal house, I suggested to him that since you have left Busubizi, where are you going now? Why don't you come and stay with me at Insanji? Which he gladly accepted.
Besides music, Kakoza says that Kyagambiddwa had a lot to learn from and a different life of faith.
So one time I asked him that, but I always see you sitting like this, straight. The spine is straight like this. He said that helps me not fall asleep. That helps me not fall asleep. You see, when you are praying, you are not supposed to sleep. This is the time when you are you're having a conversation with the Father, with the Lord.
He also seemed to cause miracles.
He would say that a war will be soon coming. And then, in fact, when he died, that is then we started hearing, the war began from Tukura, the war that chased Amin.
Justin Nabali, a Catholic music researcher, has spent 8 years investigating the life of the musician and explains her findings.
He did quite a recommendable job for those 22 songs which were composed uniquely. You find that most of his notes are written in quavers, semiquavers, crotchets. They are a bit fast, and when they are accompanied with the music instruments, oh, it is wonderful.
The fascinating story about the man prompted me to brave the rough, muddy roads of Masaka to snake through to Kalodo village where Kyagambiddwa hails from. His younger brother, Remejo Mubiru Kagolo, welcomed us. However, Kagolo lost his cool when he learned we wanted to know more about Kyagambiddwa. He believes that the church has since abandoned his brother and only remembered him years after his death. From this humble, dilapidated house rose a great man, Joseph Kyagambiddwa, who composed the 22 songs which were sung during the canonization of the Uganda Martyrs in 1964. Just a few meters away is his resting place. However, its condition doesn't portray a picture of such a rare and fine musician. The graveyard where Kyagambiddwa was buried has nothing to indicate that this is his final resting place. Instead, some of the relatives pass on the information about him orally. Stories abound that the family has failed church efforts to improve the state of Kyagambiddwa's grave. However, scores of relatives are against Kagolo's decisions.
Kuba kati n'abantu abalala nga bano balaba bagamba kati taata waabwe ono okubeera wano nga embeera eri bweti nabeera bakirabira ddala nti sikiba kirungi.
We also engaged Bishop of Masaka, John Baptist Kagwa, who will soon retire. He also expressed his disappointment with the way Kyagambiddwa's death and burial was handled.
The world over, these great people are kept alive in our memories. In our memories by certain significant signs. You go to Europe, you see these people who have made history. They make monuments for them.
Kagwa, who is also a former student of Kyagambiddwa, revealed to us plans to construct a remembrance for the composer.
We can make an alternative. That is to make a monument of Kyagambiddwa and put it somewhere in a conspicuous place whereby everyone who comes to church or who makes a pilgrimage to Chitogo can be explained who that man is, was, and what he did for the church.
Joseph Kyagambiddwa wrote several books, most of them about African music, and also taught many students, scores of whom continue to benefit from his efforts. Solomon Kawesa, NTV.